Why pay regular price when you can save money on every purchase with WagerBucks at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo? WagerBucks are now eligible for use on not just daily, 3-day, and 7-day passes, but all long-term and seasonal packages up to 1 full year. There are tons of options available for every budget and size of bettor, from as low as $90 gets $100, all the way up to $3,500 gets you $5,000. Save every day on every pick you buy with WagerBucks.
I'm back. Welcome, everybody, to WagerTalk Today. It is October 7th. I am Lawrence Presman. That handsome, old, decrepit man is Teddy Covers. And, of course, we got Dave Cokin today. Thursday show, Dave Cokin up first. He's going to talk Rams Seahawks. Big game tonight. Troy, Georgia Southern, and the White Sox Astros. Game 2. Not game 1, game 2. Doesn't say game 2. It says game 2 to me, Teddy.
Oh, no, I thought it was that. Never mind. It's game 1 today, so he's talking game 2 tomorrow.
Yes.
Now
yes, Teddy jumping at the bit to correct me. I'll give you a chance, Teddy. It is October 5th. Go.
7th.
Yeah, you win, baby. Booyah. It was nice seeing you, dude. It was great having a dinner with you last night, 2 nights ago. Some Chinese restaurant in the Nug. That's what the cool people say. They call no, it wasn't. It was the Coast. I don't know what I'm talking about. I just got off a plane. What's going on? How have the shows been? How was Merrill?
So let's start with this. All right. Caffeinate and hand off. You know, when you're just getting off a plane and trying to do a show, all you got to do, get the energy and do your handoff questions. So I don't even know what you asked me. I'm going to talk about what I learned last night, which is normally how we open these shows.
Go.
And I'll tell you what, it stood out really each of the last 2 days in MLB action. All right. On Tuesday night, it was Garrett Cole. Last night, it was Max Scherzer. You're paying a premium, laying a price with starting pitching in October. And I'll tell you what, if you're laying your price with starting pitching in October, you're going to lose. Cole on Wednesday is out in 2.2 innings. You know, you feel good about that minus 130 on the road with him out? Not necessarily. Scherzer last night. Again, he got roughed up in each of his last 2 starts in the regular season. And that probably cost me a bet yesterday why I didn't play the first 5 under was because he got roughed up. And last night, Scherzer was in trouble all the time. 3-ball count after 3-ball count from a guy who doesn't walk batters. All guile last night. Somehow he lasted through 4.1 innings of work. Somehow he gave up only 1 run and left the game with the tied 1-1 and runners on base for Joe Kelly. But you feel good about minus 230 with Scherzer in the 5th inning there? No, you don't. Managers are going to pull their starters early in October. Don't bet starting pitching. Don't lay a price with starting pitching. This time of year, it's about teams, not starters. And that lesson absolutely reinforced the first 2 days of the MLB playoffs. What about you, Prez? How was your vacation? How was your trip? Did you win any poker tournaments? Talk about Las Vegas for a few minutes.
Yeah, Teddy, firstly, that was a great take and so true, guys. You know, and I just want to point out last night, going into the 9th inning, 1-1 game, Dodgers were minus 200. So there's no rush. You can get screwed even without your starting pitcher in. Yeah, so I just took a flyer on St. Louis. I'm like, minus 200, tie game? I'm going with the dog. Well, that didn't work. Anyway, I played 3 World Series of poker tournaments, and basically I'm going back in October 25th to play the seniors event, and I just decided to leave my money there waiting for me, so I'll head back down, pick it up. But the trip was incredible. It was so nice to see you and Marco finally, and Rick. But other than like one dinner, I just shut off. Like I mean, Cokin and these guys didn't even know I was coming. I just disappeared, man. I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I just wanted to play poker with a bunch of strangers, and it was spectacular. But I will say this, Teddy. I mean, I have so much to talk about in regards to how much I learned at the poker table, especially I was sitting with a lot of really excellent poker players. But I don't want to get into that. It's a sports betting show, but I will say one thing. I hadn't played a poker tournament of substance in 2 years, and it showed. That is one game that if you don't play regularly, you just can't do well in. That game is about feel and rhythm and just understanding the movement of the table. And I mean, the first couple of days, I was completely out of my element. But I'm slowly getting it back, and I'm coming down for the senior event. So, yeah, it was a great trip. Excited to be back, though. Let's bring Dave Cokin in. How are you, Dave? What's going on, my friend?
Complimentary canes at the senior event as a consolation prize. Nice.
Yeah.
By the way,
the old guys.
Since I wasn't invited, did you go to the Chinese restaurant at the Gold Coast?
Yes.
Good spot.
You like that? Ping Pang Pong or whatever?
Yeah, excellent.
Ping
Very good.
Pong or something?
Yep.
Yeah, listen, I thought the meal was okay. The company was, I went for Teddy, man. I mean,
their food's good.
I
haven't done it recently, but that's one of those spots where it's like 2 a.m. Yeah, I'll go there.
Yeah.
Worth the trip every time.
2 a.m, I'm either at the poker table or asleep. You got a 5% NFL play up. Those are very rare, guys. Dave is 3-0 in NFL 5% plays last season and this season. 3-0, right?
Yeah, going back to October of 2019, so we're talking 2 full calendar years, I'm 27-9 on all my 5% plays. So these do well. They don't come up a lot. I mean, that's 2 full years. There's only been 36 of them. So, that's 24 months, 36 plays. Not very many 5% plays, but I like this one. Think it'll get there. My complete card as of now is 3 NFL plays, including the one tonight. We're going to talk about 4 college games, and we're into that time of the season where I can really get into the matchups with some statistical backing, and hopefully this will get things going on a hot streak. But obviously I do like this NFL game, and I like the game tonight to some extent as well.
Yeah, let's talk about that. We've got Seattle hosting the Rams. Seattle with, I don't know if you call it an impressive victory. Look, they got the job done, but man, were they ever outgained. And they're playing the Rams, who just didn't look that great against Arizona. How are you betting this game?
Well, I mean, you hit on something that I think matters. Seattle won the game, but you look at the stat sheet, and it's like, how? They got outgained by 223 yards, and that was mostly with a backup quarterback in the game, a rookie backup quarterback for the 49ers. So that's not a great thing. I don't think the Seattle team is all that good, to be honest with you. Quarterback is outstanding. The receivers are very good. But the defense is shaky, and they're probably catching the Rams at the wrong time. That was a big loss for the Rams last week. They were strutting their stuff, unbeaten, being talked about as the best team in the National Football League by a lot of the talking heads around the country. Well, that didn't just change because they lost a game to this Arizona team. And look, Arizona outplayed them. They deserved to win the game. But I think the Rams come in here very focused off that game. And I know it's going to be a popular public side, but sometimes the popular public side is the right side. I think the Rams have a very good chance to win this football game tonight. And I laid 2, and I feel pretty good about it.
So, Dave, I want to ask you about some of these yardage calculations, because in particular, I watched San Fran, Seattle last week start to finish. And the 49ers put up a bunch of garbage yards during garbage time when they were trailing by margin, and Lance was running around and, playing like a rookie QB, taking shots, and they connected on a couple of them. They ended up getting a bunch of yards without the corresponding points to show for it. when it comes to these yardage calculations in the NFL and in college football for that matter, how much of it is statistical based for you and how much of it is eye test type of thing or power rating numbers for you? Talk about that breakdown when it comes to the NFL and college football.
It's a mix because you just explained very well how the yardage was a little misleading in the Seattle-San Francisco game. But when it gets to be that many yards, that's still something you got to look at. I mean, it's over 200 yards. If it was like 100 and you looked at that and said, well, this is mostly, meaningless yardage in the second half, that'd be one thing. But this is 220-something yards. That's a lot. When a team loses, I mean, even with garbage yards thrown in, when a team wins a game where they got outgained by over 200 yards, kind of fluky. It just doesn't happen very often. You might see a game a week in college football that approaches that, but almost never goes over that. And in the NFL, it basically never happens, where the team that outgains the other by over 200 loses the football game. So I think it does tell something here. And the fact is, having watched the Seahawks over the first 4 weeks of the season, they're not that good. I mean, they're not a bad football team by any means, but they're not that good. I think that there are some flaws in this team, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. And the Rams certainly have the components to exploit those weaknesses. I mean, I don't think by any means it's a blowout. It should be a really good Thursday night football game, but I think the Rams come out on top.
Dave Cokin joining us, everybody. You can find Dave at WagerTalk.com. He's got a 5% NFL play up for you all this weekend, and he is 27-9 over 2 calendar years in those 5% plays. Dave, let's move to college football. Troy minus 5.5 versus Georgia Southern. How should people bet this game?
Well, and it's like, wow, all the good games on the schedule this weekend, and you picked out Troy and Georgia Southern to talk about. Yeah,
you picked that
because
out.
I did. Yeah.
Yes.
I was pretending I was somebody watching the show and talking to me.
Yeah, I know.
For me, it's really not about whether it's a marquee matchup or not. It's all about situational stuff and stats and where the good plays are. And this game, I think, is a good bet. Numbers going up a little bit, but I still think it's a good bet. I expect Troy to win this by more than a touchdown. So why do I expect that? Well, Georgia Southern had quite a game last week. They fired the head coach 2 Sundays ago. Lunsford out of there, brought in the interim coach. And sometimes that can be a distraction. Sometimes it can be something that kind of gets the team a little bit of a spike. And last week it worked in Georgia Southern's favor. What also worked in their favor is they are a very run-heavy team, mainly because they can't throw the ball at all. They're terrible passing the ball. And they ran into a team that can't tackle. I mean, Arkansas State is just horrific defensively, which I should have known going into that game. They averaged over 10 yards per carry last week. And Georgia Southern also got helped by the Arkansas State quarterback. You might remember James Blackman from his days at Florida State. He's still just as bad, and he was throwing the ball to the wrong team all day long. So it was a complete wipeout. Troy, on the flip side, tough loss last week to South Carolina. They didn't play a bad football game. The week prior to that, kind of a shocking loss at the hands of UL Monroe, which is a very bad football team. So we've got a couple of things in play here. First, in terms of value, reaction to the results of last week and the week before have lowered this number. This number would have been considerably higher 2 weeks ago than it is now, but Troy's got the 2 losses in the meantime, and Georgia Southern has got a win by 1 million last week. So that line got lowered, got all the way down to 4 in the open, I believe it was, and then you got bet up fairly quickly. The other is the matchup. Georgia Southern last week with the interim coach, who's not going to get the full-time job in all likelihood, they had a perfect fit, a team that could not stop what they like to do. Now they run into a Troy team that actually is very good against the run. It's the one, they're a pretty good defensive football team, but they're not good offensively. But they are good defensively, and they're good, very good defensively against the run, which means Georgia Southern not likely to carve things up with big gains all day long on the ground. They'll have to throw the ball, and the Eagles don't do that well at all. So, and I also think they flatten out off what was kind of a perfect game last week. I think situationally, statistically, this favors Troy. And I look for the Trojans not to dominate because they're just not a high-scoring team. And that's the only negative here. But I think they can win by more than a touchdown. So laying 5.5, not a bad idea with the Troy Trojans.
So here's my only concern about that side, and certainly everything you said makes perfect sense, Dave. My concern here with Troy is their acumen on the offensive side of the football, because you got to score points to cover point spreads. And when you're getting shut down by Louisiana Monroe's defense, that's kind of a concern. And it's not like they were moving the ball up and down the field. I mean, obviously last week they stepped up against an SEC team, but I haven't seen a whole lot from this Troy offense to make me think it's going to be easy for them to put the biscuit in the basket. Can this team score touchdowns, Dave?
No, which is why the line is playable. Because if they could score touchdowns, they'd probably be laying. They'd have a better record than they have, and they'd be laying 10 or 12 points. They don't have to score. They don't have to score a lot of points to cover 5.5. Just hold the other team, manage the ball offensively, and put 21 on the board. You're probably going to get a win. This does not figure to be a high-scoring football game.
Dave Cokin. Dave, let's turn our attention to baseball. We got 2 games today. You want to talk about game 2 in the White Sox Astros series.
Yes.
That goes tomorrow at 2:07 Eastern. Giolito versus Valdez. I'll hand the mic over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I leaned to the unders today, but I didn't bet either one. So far, 2-0 to the unders, 1-0-1 to the unders. First 5's a 2-0 to the unders. And I think that trend probably continues. But I didn't like either matchup enough to play today. I favored the Astros, but not by as much as the line. I favor the Rays, but not by as much as the line, so I didn't want to get involved. But tomorrow, and it's not widely available yet, so I haven't published it as a play, but it's going to be a play for me. The Astros will be probably in the 130 neighborhood against the White Sox, and I will be on the White Sox in this game. Really like what I saw out of Lucas Giolito down the stretch. He's had kind of an inconsistent season, but his last 3 starts, he looked really good. Now you can say, well, he wasn't facing very good offenses in those last 3 starts, and you'd be right. And he's facing a lot better offense here. The Astros have the best WRC plus in baseball. But Giolito in good form can quiet any lineup. So I like him to do well against the Astros tomorrow. The flip side is Framber Valdez, good pitcher for the Astros, but he's a lefty. And the White Sox, well, they're not putting up the numbers they did last season against lefties. They were really never healthy all season. Now they are. They've got all those righty bats to line up against Valdez. And the White Sox still, on the season, good record against lefties, and the second best WRC plus against lefties in baseball. The best, by the way, was the Astros, but they're not facing a lefty tomorrow. This is where I think you get some value. And if I can get plus 10 cents, that's good enough for me. And I think I'll be able to get that. I'll be on the White Sox in game 2 tomorrow, and I really don't care what happens today.
So, Dave, I want to ask you, at the top of the show, we talked about what did bettors learn, and I talked about how in the postseason, these starting pitching matchups, they don't last very long. Scherzer's pulled in the 3rd inning, or in the 5th inning, and Cole gets pulled in the 3rd. When we're handicapping postseason baseball, are you putting as much emphasis into the starting pitching matchups as you would in the regular season?
Yeah,
or is it
absolutely.
more about the team approach?
No, absolutely. Because you could also say Gary Cole did not exactly close the season on a high note. He wasn't very good in September. Max Scherzer, as good as he is, he wasn't very good at the end of the season. So, that's a huge part of starting pitching handicapping is what's their current form. And in the case of Cole and Scherzer, you can argue that their current form coming into these 2 playoff games was the worst it's been all season. So I think from that standpoint, it kind of held up. Scherzer, he's managed to labor through 4+ innings. Yesterday, he only gave up 1 run, but he wasn't good. And we saw what happened to Cole, who just didn't have good stuff at all and basically wanted to come out of the game. Two completely different reactions, by the way, on the starting pitchers when they were being removed. Gary Cole, twice, you could see him saying, I'm out. He wanted out. Max Scherzer did not want to hand Dave Roberts the ball. He is a fierce competitor, and he wanted to stay in. There's no question about that. But the fact is, neither one of them was particularly good. And Scherzer was very lucky to survive the 4 1/3 innings yesterday with only giving up 1 run. A better offensive team probably knocked him around. It's the one thing of the Cardinals is as great as they were down the stretch with the 17-game winning streak, this was never a really good offensive baseball team. They got tremendous pitching and won a lot of close games, and hats off to them for winning 17 in a row and making the playoffs. But of all the teams, the teams that made the playoffs, I would argue the Cardinals were the 8th best or the 10th best out of 10. They nice story, but not a great team.
Dave Cokin. Dave, thanks for joining us, man. I know you have a 5% up in NFL. What else is going on for you this weekend?
So I've got 3 NFL plays, including the 5%, and including a play on the Rams tonight. And I've got 4 colleges, including the Troy game, which I talked about here. That is a selection. Baseball. I have a 5%, and it's still priced at $9. By the way, they never changed the price. I have a 5% over and under wins, over and under points prop in the NHL. I had my first ever over and under future bet in baseball on the Texas Rangers under 67.5 wins, I believe it was, this season. That was an easy winner, and I think this one's going to be an easy winner as well. It's an underplay on an NHL team that I think might have some issues. And so that's available for just $9. So if you go to my homepage at wt.buzz/DC, you can get that for $9. You won't get paid for several months, but I think you will get paid eventually on that one.
Dave Cokin, everybody. Dave, thanks for joining us. What a pleasure. Best of luck this weekend. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. We're right back with Teddy covers his big game breakdown. Skee Profit joining us to talk NBA futures and the daily presidential address. Give us 15 seconds.
Sign up for the free WagerTalk text club to gain access to free plays and exclusive discounts. Just text WagerTalk to 33222 to sign up and get a $10 coupon to use on WagerTalk.com.
It is time for today's big game breakdown. We got to talk a little MLB, a playoff action for tonight. The Tampa Bay Rays and the Boston Red Sox. Right now, looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen, I'm seeing Tampa in the minus 150 range as a favorite. Total 8 money to the under. There is a fair bit of variance on this line. Right now, you can lay 170 with Tampa. You can also lay 145 with Tampa. It pays to shop around. I'm going to make a case for the Rays here. And when it comes to postseason baseball, my write-ups aren't very good. Not like the regular season. The regular season, you can write stuff up, no problem. In the postseason, you're like, yeah, I like this team because. And that's the rationale for a lot of these bets in the postseason. It's not about starting pitching matchups. Right, game 1, we have no momentum factors. All right. Bullpens are fresh for both sides. Lineups are fresh for both sides. So for game 1s, it really comes down to, for me, one factor is primary. Which team do I think is going to win the series? And we look at the series price for the Rays and the Red Sox. And this stands out like a sore thumb to me. And the markets aren't always thinking what I'm thinking when it comes to series prices versus game 1 prices. The series price here is anywhere from Tampa minus 185 to minus $2. That series price will be adjusted after game 1. The Rays have no business being minus 190, minus $2 for the series prior to game 1 if they're not going to win game 1. This line's going to be pick 'em if they lose tonight or close to it. So the game 1 wager correlates with the series wager. So why lay 190 with Tampa? You can lay 150 with them tonight. It's one of those stories. I think the Rays are the better team. I'm impressed with the Rays lineup. All they've done is overachieve, not just this year and last year. When it comes to your casual fan, when it comes to your casual bettor, can bettors name 3 Rays? 2 Rays? 1 Ray? They're an anonymous team that continues to win. First 100-win season for the Rays. Last year they won 100 games. Well, obviously it wasn't a long season, but they were the best team in the American League all year. All right? No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Say, the starting pitching match. I don't care about the starting pitching match in the postseason. The thing that matters most is which bullpen can come in and get outs. And Tampa's mix and match bullpen is as good as any in that regard. Red Sox bullpen played great against the Yankees on Tuesday. I give them all the credit in the world. Not against this lineup. Not tonight. And when the series price is minus 190 and I get to lay minus 150, game one, count me in. Give me the Rays minus the price against the Red Sox. And there's the best I could do for a big game breakdown on a game I have an opinion on, but it's hard to explain why. Back to you, El Presidente.
Teddy covers. I just wanted to make mention to everybody because some of you asked in the chat room, the NFL presidential address I normally tape on Wednesdays. I was away. I was in transit yesterday. I will be taping it today, 2 p.m. Eastern. It should be up later this afternoon, so make sure to check that out. NFL presidential address on our YouTube channel. Also, shout out to all of you guys. We crossed 80,000 subscribers yesterday. That is just absolutely awesome. Teddy and I were literally talking at dinner. Let's get to 100,000 and let's get there before the calendar year ends. So we need all of your help to do that as well, guys. Make sure to hit that like button. Teddy, Skee Profit's joining us. Love this guy. Skee, how are you, my friend? Welcome back to WagerTalk Today. It's been a little while, but you're doing really well, right? Things are good?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's good to be back with you guys, and I'm getting an echo, so excuse me. I'll take this one off. I'm doing well in baseball. My last 28 plays in baseball, I've won 20. I had a 3-1 day yesterday. The first wild card game, I went 2-0-1. So I'm liking what I'm seeing on the diamond, and I have 2 big plays up tonight. So that's where I'm doing well at, Prez.
Excellent stuff. Skee, look, I don't have a clue what you want to talk about. I don't know what sport. I don't know what games. I'm guessing it's betting related. Maybe Fast 9 movie review, potentially a cooking recipe. I'll hand the mic to you. Go talk about whatever you want.
Well, let's start with MLB because we're talking baseball right here. You said you had 2 plays up for tonight. Is that both games we're talking about, Skee, or is one of the 2 games one that you can break down with us? And talk about your strategy for postseason baseball. Are you a starting pitching guy? Because Cokin and I were disagreeing on that one a little bit when it comes to postseason baseball.
I do have a play on both games, and it's part of a 2-pick package that's up on WagerTalk. As far as what you were saying, I think you have to consider it all. I think you have to look at the starting pitcher, but it should never, whether it's regular season, postseason, be your only handicap. Definitely think the bullpens are important and momentum, just the team in general. So it's never all one thing for me. I know Dave does a lot more first fives than me. I play full games, so I'm looking at everything. And I did want to bring up, we heard Ralph Michaels bring it up maybe a little over a month ago, or at least he tweeted it out that, and I only bring this up because I heard you mention playing some of these big prices on these starting pitchers. Like teams laying minus 200 or more, they've been profitable more times than not, going all the way back to 2004. And I know for sure they've been profitable 7 of the last 10 years. I think only 1 year, if you're backing all of those dogs, have you been profitable. And I looked at the Dodgers this season alone. They're 58-12 in that scenario, about a little bit under 83%. I won with them yesterday. I took them on a -1 line, makes it about -171 because I thought they should have been priced higher. And favorites in general this year, minus 200 or more, they're up $9,105 for a $100 better. So don't be scared of some of those big prices because sometimes they should be even higher.
I'm with you 100% for the postseason. I'd rather lay a lot of times than take in the MLB postseason, although certainly when you talk about the Dodgers last night, hey, run line, never in doubt, right? For LA
Never
Packers.
in doubt.
Easy peasy, no sweat. 2 outs, nobody on, bottom of the ninth. You always cash those run line tickets. Dodgers, Packers. On the lucky side in that regard, but that's the nature of postseason baseball. So you tell me, Skee, do you want to talk a little NFL? You want to talk some college football, or you ready to talk a little NBA with me in terms of futures for the National Basketball Association that starts, oh my God, next week?
Well, it's always good to talk NBA with you, Teddy. I mean, I'm open to talk anything, but I do have a few. I looked over some futures stuff in the betting market. I have some things that caught my attention, so we can start in the association.
Sure, go. What caught your attention, my friend?
All right, so I guess I'll kind of maybe rapid fire, and if anything you want to jump in, just feel free. The first thing or the biggest thing I think that jumped out to me is looking at the East. I mean, the Nets have problems, right? They're not sure if Kyrie's going to play at all, how many games he's going to play. It's not looking like he's going to be able to play at home. So I think that's going to hurt them as far as regular season wins. Then I look at whoever else is in that division. I look at the Sixers. We're not sure what's going to happen with the Ben Simmons drama. If he's going to be traded, they're not going to have the same chemistry. And a lot of those guys over there, like Embiid, like Tobias Harris, they're a little bit more on the injury-prone side. So I'm not expecting them to have the best regular season coming up. I go a little bit further. I look at the Celtics. I think they kind of had a bit of a disappointing year. I see them at plus 750 to win their division. I think that's worth a shot right there. And I also like them on their win total. Win total is 46.5. They've gone over that the past 5 years, I believe. And you take away Kemba. I mean, I'm not a big Kemba guy. He's a liability on defense. He's always hurt. And you replaced him with Schroeder, who should be extremely hungry. I mean, he just lost, like $80 million based on the new contract that he signed. So I like him being over there. I like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to keep taking steps forward. I like that they got Al Horford back, and I think they can have a good regular season. So first off, I like the Celtics over the win total and for them to win the Atlantic Division at plus 750.
So conceptually, I love the idea of some of these contenders, but lesser contenders to win division. All right. You talked about how Philly, there are question marks, big question marks. For Brooklyn, question marks and big question marks. And, I'm not sold on the Knicks necessarily either, although Thibodeau will burn them out in the regular season, which is your biggest concern right there. But teams, the contenders this year, so many of them, I think, are squads that may not care all that much about regular season success. Utah, hey, they had home court advantage last year. Did that do them any good? No. The Lakers care about winning in the regular season this year? No. Warriors? No. And on down the line. In the Western Conference, besides Boston, are there any other, let's say, second-tier teams that have attracted your betting interest as possibilities to win division titles that nobody in the NBA cares about except for bettors if you make these kind of futures?
In the East, if I have to pick another team, and when you're doing these futures, you really don't want to lock up anything minus. You want it to be plus money when you're putting your money away for that long. I think I would have to go to the Southeast, and I would look towards the favorite are the Heat. I think they're about minus 120, and I love their roster. They have a lot of veterans on there, but they're also a lot of guys who can, we see them get hurt pretty often, especially if they're older. We've seen Jimmy Butler, he can miss some time. Kyle Lowry even can miss some time. So I think I want to look for somebody else to win that division. And it's not a big dog, but I like the Hawks at plus 120. They showed you how good they are last year. Trae Young is incredible, and they're a much deeper team. I think they can withstand some of those injuries. Like if Bogdanovich goes down, they have a few other guys who can step up. As long as, for the most part, Trae Young is not out for a good portion of the season, I think the Hawks win a lot of games. They've shown that they like playing for this coach. As soon as he came in last year, they were playing incredible. I think it continues this year. So I would take a shot on the Hawks plus 120 to win the Southeast if I'm picking anybody else in the East first to win the division.
So I'm with you 1,000% on Atlanta, maybe 10th. I think coming into the season, they might be the best regular season team in the East. Would you take a flyer on the Hawks as a bet-on team right out of the gate? Because, they're coming into the NBA season, I'm not someone that's done sitting there spending weeks of research on the NBA. It's the middle of football season. It's the middle of the NBA, MLB playoffs. And for what it's worth, there's only so many hours in the day. Basketball, initially, the first 5 games for me, and not even necessarily the first couple of games for me, I'll watch and learn more than preseason research. But Atlanta is the one team that absolutely has stood out to me in the work that I've done as being a value squad early. Agree or disagree?
I would agree. And you kind of mentioned it earlier, but I think you can look at the Lakers as a team that you maybe want to bet against in the early part of the season. A lot of, not to change, but I agree with you on the Hawks. And I think the Lakers may struggle a bit. A lot of new pieces. It's going to take some getting used to each other. They probably have some really high spreads. And I think ATS-wise to start the season, you probably fade them and back Atlanta.
Anything in the Western Conference stand out to you, Skee? I mean, you talked about the Lakers a little bit. You talked about Boston as a live plus 750 to win the Atlantic Division. In the West, anyone stand out to you as a team that we want to be betting on, betting against, looking at futures for, looking at futures against? Talk about your thought process. Obviously, the Lakers, a team with nothing to prove in the regular season, but half the Western Conference has nothing to prove in the regular season. And loaded teams down at the bottom. You look at the Minnesotas and Sacramentos of the world, and you're like, wow, that's a lot more talent than I'm used to seeing on these rosters. What do we do in the Western Conference in terms of bet-ons and or bet against coming into the campaign?
You touched on something else that I wanted to mention before I move to the West. I'm just going to just a quick rapid fire on these 3. But you talked about the Knicks. If I'm taking anybody to miss the playoffs, I would take the Knicks at plus 130. I just think there's a lot of competition over there in the East. As far as what I'm looking at, I have Nets, Bucks, Sixers, Heat, Celtics, Hawks, Pacers, Bulls. So that leaves the Knicks on the outside, and I would probably take a flyer on them at plus 130. And they got that guy, Kemba, who's injury prone and a liability on defense. So I don't think that they will be any better. And I talked about the Sixers and their problems. I like their win total under 51.5. And I think the Pacers, they got into practice and training really early when everybody else wasn't. I think they've had that squad together for a while. They have some depth. I like their win total over 42.5. They've surpassed that the last 3. Now, as far as the West Coast, win total wise, I only like 1, and it's going to be for the Clippers to be under 44.5. And my reason for that is, for one, you probably are not going to get Kawhi back until sometime around March. And just looking at the roster, it's not much to like. I'm not a fan of Bledsoe. He keeps running away from winning teams, acting like they're the problem, but I guess he just has to look in the mirror. And I think they're Paul George injury away from missing the playoffs and having a really terrible season. And we've seen him have injuries, be a little bit injury prone the past few years. So I like the Clippers under 44.5. I know it's no way that I can talk anybody out of calling me a homer, but I like the Lakers to win the West. I like them even to win the championship. And I mean, to win the West is plus 190. To win the championship is plus 350. And last year I wasn't confident, but this year, the way that the roster is set up and the way that the rest of the league is looking, I just see a path to success. And I think they'll be hungry after getting knocked out in the first round. You look at the Clippers, you have Kawhi who's hurt. I don't think they're going to be that good this year. Denver, going to have to work back from a Jamal Murray injury. He might not be back till sometime next year, maybe same time around March like Kawhi. The Warriors, they're going to depend on if Klay is healthy. When they go in the finals, if they maybe face the Nets, we're not sure what's going to happen with Kyrie. I just think that the Lakers are the best team as far as how they're constructed right now. As long as they stay healthy, it is very hard for me to not see them win the West or even win the championship. If I had to pick one, I'll pick them just to win the West and then play the finals once it gets there.
Skee, go ahead.
And outside of that, that's all I have for the West. I have a couple of picks for maybe some player awards.
Go ahead, Skee. Your segment.
Okay. Well, this one is just kind of personal preference. I'm not even going to explain too much, but I'm a real big fan of Jalen Green's game. I like to see him play more than I like Cunningham, and I would take him as Rookie of the Year, plus 275. When I look at MVP, I look at 3 guys. The first guy I look at is Harden, and I'm talking a lot about the Nets, and maybe without Kyrie, how are they going to stay afloat? We saw KD miss some time last year. He had a pretty big injury, and I can see him missing time again. How do the Nets stay afloat? They're going to need everything from Harden, just like he was playing last year before he got hurt. And I think at plus 1,400, it's worth a shot for Harden to win MVP. One of the other guys would be Steph Curry. He's only plus 700. He's not the favorite, but he had an incredible season last year. I feel like he could have won it last year if his team was more successful and made the playoffs. And if you never know, if somebody gets hurt, if maybe Clay goes down, it's going to put a lot more on his shoulders again, and we can see that same unanimous MVP type Steph Curry again. So I like a shot on him. And it's also just very hard to count out LeBron James, especially after a season they got eliminated in the first round. I know he's getting up there in age, but it's still hard to count him at plus 1,200. So those three guys would be my looks as far as MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. I am going to go Anthony at plus 600. He looks a lot bigger. I think he knows if the Lakers are going to have success, it's going to depend heavily on him being the defensive anchor, and I think he's more than capable of doing so. So that's my best bet for Defensive Player of the Year, and that's what I was looking at for futures in the association.
Gee, jam-packed, brother. Wow. I mean, I think you got 15 potential bets in that segment. Outstanding stuff. Skee, really quick, in 1 minute, is there anything on the NFL card that jumps out at you?
It's kind of choppy. I don't know if you guys hear me choppy. Were you asking me about the NFL?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, tonight's game.
Any game.
Whatever you want, dude.
Well, okay, my favorite game right now, I haven't even played the NFL yet. I probably am going to put some plays in today. But as you guys know, I'm a Chargers fan, and I think they're really good. I think Herbert is great. I like that we got Rashawn Slater. He's made the offensive line a lot better. The defense looks good as long as they can stay healthy with Bosa and Derwin James, and they are healthy right now. But the defense is good against the pass. The defense is terrible. It has been terrible the past few years against the run. And who are they going to play this? They're going to play Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and you know they're going to run the ball down their throat, especially with Baker limited. So I see the Browns having a lot of success here. If you wanted to put them on a teaser, thinking that they may not win the game, I understand that. I think that's a great teaser leg. But I see the Chargers losing this week. I like the Browns plus 110, I think it was.
Skee Profit. Talking MLB playoffs, talking NBA preseason and future book odds, and talking NFL for this Sunday. Skee, what do you have to promote for this weekend over at WagerTalk.com?
Again, excuse me. I don't know why. It's a little broken up for me, but I think you said promote. I don't have plays up yet for the weekend, but I will today. I'm working on WNBA. We're going to have Game 5 for the semifinals tomorrow night, and I'll also have a couple plays up for NFL. But MLB, I'll be in action pretty much every day. I'm hot. It's playoffs, and I want to continue making money, so check me out on those.
Awesome stuff,
That's
Skee. Get
Skee
out of
Profit.
here, Teddy. Sorry. I got excited. I'm excited. Go ahead.
No. You. What? When I tell you exactly what I'm going to do, and you decide that you want
Don't
to take
start
over
with me,
it without
Teddy.
telling me back, it's all you, buddy. Go.
Okay, guys, time for the daily presidential address. Let's go. All right, time for the daily presidential address, and it is great to be back. If you guys are watching this on Twitter and you missed the show, Wager Talk Today, outstanding show. Dave Cokin came on, talked college football, the Rams game tonight, and game 2 of the White Sox Astros series. Skee Profits came on and talked NBA futures. Gave out a ton of outstanding information. And Teddy looked at the Tampa Bay Boston game 1 in his big game breakdown. I got lots going on this weekend, guys. I got 3 NFL plays up for Sunday. They'll be up online in the next few hours. I have a college football play tonight. I have a baseball play for the 4:00 game, and I just want to let everybody know in the last 2 years of baseball playoff betting, I am 21-10. 21-10 in baseball betting over the last 2 years. I got 3 plays for you guys as well. I'm going with the Tampa Bay Rays under the total in tonight's baseball game. I like the Rams tonight. I'm not releasing it to my clients, but I will be putting a small wager on the Rams. And if you guys get -2 or less, please take it on the money line. We actually had Ralph Michaels on last year who did an extremely deep dive into whether you should take a bet on the money line or on the point spread, and anything under 2, the money line bet is actually a better bet in the long run. As for Sunday, I like the New England Patriots under the total of 39.5. One of our listeners, Chuck, said, am I crazy to bet Houston +9? I don't think so. I like them as well. Check out the NFL Presidential address. It'll be up by 5, 6 o'clock Eastern time today. Thank you, guys. Teddy, I'm going shawarma. I haven't had one in a week. Take us home.
Sure, that's going to wrap it for the Thursday edition of Wager Talk Today. We'll do it again tomorrow. Same time, same channel, 9 a.m. on the left coast, noon for you guys back east. Between now and then, enjoy the games and good luck tonight.
Why pay regular price when you can save money on every purchase with WagerBucks at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo? WagerBucks are now eligible for use on not just daily, 3-day, and 7-day passes, but all long-term and seasonal packages up to 1 full year. There are tons of options available for every budget and size of bettor, from as low as $90 gets $100, all the way up to $3,500 gets you $5,000. Save every day on every pick you buy with WagerBucks.